Hey everybody, welcome to the channel, and today we're looking at another multicam setup. We're looking at the NearStream VM33 2K streaming camera. In the box, you get the documentation, a USB-C to USB-A cable for charging, and the VM33 2K streaming camera, and this is a chunky boy. It's got a 1/2.8-inch CMOS sensor, a 10 times optical zoom with 4 times digital zoom. It's capable of up to 2K video, hence the name. On the front of the camera, you've got a big, beautiful lens, and you've got an indicator light. On the back, you've got indicator lights for the battery life. You have a 3.5-inch input for microphones, a little pinhole reset button, a USB-C port, and a micro SD card reader, as well as obviously the power button. If you just give the power button a quick tap, it'll let you know how much battery life is left on the camera without actually turning it on. And the label back here with the serial number actually has the device name as well, so you know which one you're connecting to. On the top, you've got an array of 8 microphones that's going to give you the best opportunity to have a nice clean sound. Now, I'm always skeptical when it comes to audio captured from a webcam, but we'll give it a look. And on the bottom, you have a 1/4-inch thread for mounting. We're going to go over all the setup of the cameras and setting up all the settings and all those sorts of things in a separate tutorial video, so stay tuned for that. If that video is already available by the time you see this, there'll be a link up here. But for now, we're just going to go through the features. We're going to test out the camera and see what it looks like. So let's have a look at the app first. Now, there's a delay in the video and audio as it's being received. That's just the way that these cameras work. That's either via the desktop or the phone, but I'll show you that. It's really easy to control. Your available cameras are sitting in front of you. All you have to do to switch cameras is click on the appropriate camera that you want to go to air. No problem. And you can see it actually looks really good. Under here, you'd see where all your graphics are. I don't have any made up, but if you go under the plus sign, you could create brand new graphics. So for example, I'm just going to make up one with a sloth real quick. This, and to add my text. Hi there, and done. And then I can select that and actually put that up on the screen really quickly and take it off just as fast. So you can have different overlays and things like that, and that's pretty cool. Here's all your sound controls, so you can actually mix the audio from both, or you can take one off if you just want one main one. Especially if you have an external mic plugged into one, then you're not going to want the other one putting a bunch of noise on there for you. Then up top, you've got your live and your record. So if you set up your record, it'll actually give you a choice of what codec you want to record in. You get the choice to record to mobile. It won't let you do anything unless you do that. You pick your quality, as well as the ability to enable HEVC. Now you can choose to record directly to the devices as well if you've got SD cards plugged into those, which would be really good if you're out in the field and doing stuff. You definitely want to have that going, and that way it gives you the opportunity to take all of the footage and edit it the way you want and not have to worry about doing it on your phone on the fly. And you can also live stream from here, so it's got presets for things like YouTube and Facebook and Twitch. It does have an RTMP server, so you can add anything as long as you have that information. You can stream up to 1440p on here, which is pretty good. And then once you've set those up, you can select them all and just hit go live and you're good to go. I will say I really like the phone app for this one. It's very easy to use. It doesn't look like a really cheap UI like some of the other multicam systems do. And the fact that the cameras actually look nice is helpful. Now, the phone's not the only way to connect these cameras to you. You can connect wirelessly directly to your computer using the NearStream desktop app. And this is that app right here. So it basically has the same controls. It does have some limitations, which seems to be a little weird that the phone can do a bit more than the actual desktop, but we'll see how it goes. So we're just going to click connect to both of these. And you can see that they pop up, and you just switch between the cameras like this, the exact same way as you did on the other app. I generally find this app a little bit more finicky than the phone's app. I think that they intend for you to be more out on the go when you're doing this kind of stuff, but you get the basic idea. You do have the ability to add graphics from here, so you would do the exact same thing that you did in the phone app. And your overall settings are pretty light, so your input camera quality, you can only go as high as 1080p on this one when you were able to go 2K on the phone. So this is something I'd like to see updated sooner than later. But you have the same options in terms of setting up streaming and setting up records. All of that's really simple. Do keep in mind, though, that they seem to default the settings at 720p. I think that's to take a little bit of the load off of the network, but you can always go in here and change it. You can also plug these in directly as webcams, and you can see what that looks like over here. Again, it's coming in delayed even when it's wired directly, which I really don't like, so I wouldn't recommend using this as an actual webcam. You could do it. You would have to delay all of your audio to match up, but that's a really difficult task, especially for a delay this big. So if you've got the time to fine tune it and you'd rather use something like OBS, then go ahead. Other than that, I'd probably stick to the apps because that keeps everything in sync right off the bat. And the last way you can connect is via NDI. Now, you're going to have the exact same delay issues with the cameras. I'd probably still just stick to the apps, but it's nice that you have that option. So you can have different cameras around if you're on a stream or something like that. With the delay, it might not matter so much at that point because you might have a camera that's in another room. So like for me, for example, sometimes I do like half cooking, half gaming streams. So when I go to the kitchen and I have that microphone picking me up, it'll all be in sync. I just got to make sure that this mic's not going to pick up that audio, because otherwise you're going to have a weird little echo thing where this mic picks up the audio, then the other mic picks up the audio a second later. But if you can avoid that, then it's not a problem. Now I set up a little multi-camera cord a little earlier in the day, so let's have a look at that. Okay, so now we're set up on both cameras. They're both completely wireless right now. There's nothing attached to them whatsoever except that the tripods that they're mounted on. This is camera 1 right here, and this over here be camera 2. It's so easy to switch between them on the app. They show up both in preview and you just switch and switch. Now there is a little delay on here, so you'll hear things delayed, but you'll also see things delayed. I'd say it's about a second or so of delay, so you can't really listen back to it, otherwise you're gonna kind of get that speech jammer thing going, but that's okay. My recommendation is actually to go in and listen to how everything sounds. Do like a little pre-record first, so you know in the space that you're recording what it's gonna sound like if you have to make any adjustments, and then you can just kind of go free from there. Now I will say that I've tried some of these multicam setups before, and the real interesting thing about this one is that the quality is so much better. Now I would expect that with the size of these cameras, I would expect a much bigger sensor in them and all that other stuff, so not a real huge surprise here, but just good to know. The one thing I will say about this setup is I wish the camera had tally lights so I knew which one was on, so I could switch between them and know that the switch happened without having to look down at my app. So I switch right now. I can see on my app that I've made the switch, but I don't know that I did it if I'm just kind of doing it blind, like if I have this down at my desk and I'm just switching back and forth. Now within the app itself, you can do camera adjustments, so you can go and click on the little gear here. So you do audio settings, image adjustments, all the different things. So if we go into image adjustments, for example, there's an autofocus, there's an auto exposure, an auto white balance. You can actually change all of those things. I like a manual white balance myself. HDR, this is one of the first cameras I've ever seen that has good HDR on it. If you can see the colors in the background right now, you can actually see really nice deep purples, and the contrast is good. There's not a lot of noise in it. And I've made several videos that said webcams with HDR are just not performing to the level that I would like them to be. This is the best I've seen. Then you have all the usual things, brightness, contrast, saturation, and so on and so forth. And then you can go into filters, and then you have a bunch of different things here. So there's stage, which I guess we have what's set up right now, and then high contrast. So we can switch between these. It takes a moment. Now what I'd like to do is actually test out an external microphone plugged into this camera right here. Okay, so now I'm using the Rode Video Micro mounted on top of this. Had a few difficulties. So the first thing I tried to use was actually my Shure Move mic with the receiver. Feeding the cable from the receiver into the 3.5mm input of the actual camera didn't seem to actually get any audio. I don't think it can receive the receiver, but I used the exact same cable to plug in the Rode Video Micro and it was no problem at all. So there's something to do with the compatibility there, but if you just have a straight up microphone to plug in, you're good to go. And the great thing about this is while the microphone is only hooked up to this camera, I can still switch cameras and you can still hear me speaking on this microphone. Now the fact that I'm speaking this way might actually change things up a little bit. But again, if you had a lab or something like that on, it wouldn't matter because you could just switch between cameras and it wouldn't be a big deal. Now, one problem I am having, and I'm going to have to take it up with NearStream to actually get it figured out, the USB audio in. No device that I have that's USB has been able to be picked up by it, so I'm wondering what the limitations are or if I'm doing something wrong. But again, that'll all be part of the tutorial video. Okay, so my overall finding is that the camera quality is decent. It's not spectacular. I would have liked to have seen a much larger sensor in there, to be honest, just given the size of the camera. It's better than what we've reviewed on this channel before. The color's pretty decent, all of that stuff. The autofocus left a bit to be desired, at least when you were kind of close up to the camera. So the one where it was like right up in my face, I was about 2.5 feet away from the camera. The other one, I was about 6 feet away from the camera. The audio quality was actually really clean. The only thing that was really affecting it was just the overall room. There's a lot of hard walls around me. So you were getting a little bit of that kind of reverb, but overall not bad. You really got to watch your levels with this. I didn't really mess around too much with the gain. I probably should have a little bit more. When you heard that video, I had boosted the gain in post just so you could hear a little bit better, so it stayed a little bit more level with everything else. So that's obviously something you can do as well, but it's better to actually just have the level set correctly from the beginning. And a part of that's because it's really hard to monitor what's going on when you have to look at your phone or some other app to do that. I find if you're going to manage a stream or something like that yourself, that's going to be kind of the hardest part. Now, if you're doing something like you're doing a wedding or, you're just doing a regular church ceremony or anything like that, you're not going to be the one who's on camera while this is happening. So as somebody who's kind of an operator during this point, you'll have a lot more control. You'll be able to zoom in and out for them. You'll be able able to switch cameras at the appropriate times and do all those kinds of things. That makes the whole setup a whole heck of a lot easier. If you want to get a little weird with it, they do have an auto director function. And just like the eMeet Cam 1, all you have to do is you go in, you select the cameras that you want to be used. You can have up to 3 cameras connected to your app at one time, and then you just set the amount of time. So say I go every 3 seconds and I hit start, and now you see when you go through, it's actually just going to switch cameras automatically every 3 seconds all by itself. Now, obviously, that's too crazy. That's too jumbled like that. You can set it to anything you want. But at the same time, you need that to be able to line up with what you're wanting to do. Now, if you're just covering a general space, then you want to be able to show multiple things off. A church, I think, is another really good example of this, because you might have one going over the crowd, you might have one down on the priest, and you might have one that's just like kind of an up and over, so it's kind of got everything. That might be an appropriate place to use an auto director, because you don't really need to be in on certain things at certain times. But the fact that you could have somebody control that for you makes this a beautiful little studio in and of itself. Now, the NearStream VM33 comes in at $399. You'll see on their website it actually says $445.99 crossed out as $399. The entire time I've had this, that sale has not gone away, so I have a feeling it's going to stay. But that is a very hefty price to pay, and that's something you got to decide whether or not it's worth it for you, especially when you realize you have to buy more than one of them to really make it worth your while. I would say if you were just buying one of these to be your webcam, don't bother. You can get a million other 4K webcams for half the price, but the secret sauce for NearStream is its multicam capabilities, so you're going to want 2 or 3, and they sell them in a 2-pack and a 3-pack. The 2-pack doesn't have any kind of bundled discount. It's $798. That's just $399 times 2. But there is a bit of a discount if you decide to get 3. It's actually $999 for 3, so that's going to average out to $333 per camera. But what do you think about the overall quality of the NearStream VM33? What do you think about the setup? What do you think about the app? Let me know down in the comments, and while you're down there, if you like this video, make sure to hit like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos as they come out, and stay tuned for my full tutorial on the NearStream VM33 multicam setup. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about getting these things running. But that's going to do it for now. Why don't you check out this video here? That's the other multicam setup that we've reviewed in the past, so you can do a little bit of comparison. And until next time, my friends, let's get to work.